Welcome to Grave Discussions. I am Barnabas, one of your favorite undead hosts.
And I am the other guy, Samio.
And it's been a while, but we have some exciting news for you all. It's not just going to be us two anymore, your dastardly duo. Nope. We are now officially going to be the terrifying trio because we're bringing on another host full time, or until he decides he's sick of us and wants to leave. You know him, you love him. He is. Actually, why don't I just let him introduce himself?
The caretaker.
Yes.
Yes. Glad to be on, guys. Super pumped to finally intrude into the podcast officially.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you on here. I mean, we've had you on here before a few times, but we just kind of felt like it's always more fun with more people on here, and we love you, and you always have great insights. The caretaker, of course, is also Cody of the Midnight Reel, so he's kind of multitasking with the podcast, but we love the Midnight Reel, and if you guys enjoy our content, then you're almost assuredly going to enjoy the Midnight Reel. So go check out Cody and Brendan over at the Midnight Reel. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, pretty much, they do some incredible stuff on there, just mostly doing, older flicks, stuff that Brendan hasn't seen before a lot of the time, and it's a lot of fun.
Which, is most stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting getting to show him new movies. Actually, we just showed him X and Pearl.
Nice.
Oh, shit. And not specifically for the podcast, but maybe we'll talk about one of those for the podcast, or even maybe the trilogy. So, but yeah, that was fun. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah, I mean the trilogy would be a lot of fun. I think once I think he has seen Maxine. Yeah, that would be a great idea. Speaking of which, though, 2024 new horror films. This is going to be episode 110. Let me in. Because we're going to be talking about Longlegs.
Now. I love it. And it's you got to say it just like that. You got to sing it. Let me in.
Let me in. We're going to talk about Longlegs.
Bro, like that wasn't
you want to talk about it right away because it's such a shocking part of the film, but we're going to get into it, of course. We're going to get into Longlegs, one of the more divisive movies of 2024 so far, and maybe for good reason. But we're going to get into that in just a minute. We brought up, the X trilogy and Maxine. It's been like 4 months since we did the last Grave Discussions episode, so I like to just catch up with you guys. I like to know what you're thinking about movies right now, what you've seen that you really liked, didn't like, what you think about horror in 2024 so far. Caretaker, let's start with you since you're new-ish to the show, first time here as a permanent host.
Yeah. So I mean, what question do I answer first? I guess so. 2024 horror. I'm loving a lot of the horror that's come out this year. I'm enjoying it for the most part, I gotta say. There have been some, stinkers in there. But overall, I think this year has been a fun year for horror, and we still have a lot to look forward to. Which, there's a lot of upcoming films in the coming months that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Terrifier 3 trailer just dropped, and that, I'm stoked to see that. The trailer I thought was awesome. It gave just a little taste, and it was everything I was hoping for. Is exactly what was in the trailer, and I'm really looking forward to that. But as for horror that I've already seen, it's been a fun year so far. There have been some good ones. I think a couple of my top ones is probably, I know one of my top ones for sure is The First Omen. That one stood out to me quite a bit, and I really enjoyed that one. But but yeah, other than that, it's like I said, I'm happy to be on the podcast officially. I'm looking forward to doing all sorts of fun shows with you guys constantly. Just rapping about everything horror. It's going to be a good time. So, but yeah, I'm happy to be here today. I'm looking forward to talking about Longlegs. So,
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be a good show for sure. Sam, what about you? Horror 2024. Since the last time we did an episode, have you been watching anything besides Longlegs, obviously?
So 2024, I haven't been watching a lot of horror, but I've been playing like an excess of horror games. I've been playing a lot of Outlast Trials. I recently got back into Texas Chainsaw, and then today, Dead by Daylight. Instead of 1 killer versus 4 survivors, they released 2 killers versus 8 survivors. But so far this year, I've seen Late Night with the Devil, Abigail. I've seen some like shitty, just for fun, like shitty Hulu Lifetime thrillers, like Murder on Maple Drive and like Alone in the Dark. But I've also seen The Strangers, Tarot, and Maxine and Longlegs. So I've been kind of lacking this year. I'm not gonna lie, guys.
That's all good, man. We all got a lot going on, but I mean, I think those are some decent ones to check out. At least like some of the more popular ones. And you still got time to, watch some other stuff. A lot of movies are now coming, to streaming or VOD like pretty quickly after the movie theater. So there's always that opportunity to check them out as well. So yeah, dope. I mean, I also think that horror this year has been quite good so far. You know me, I tend to lean on the side of like liking more stuff than not, at least, than hating it or whatever, or thinking it's like total shit. Don't get me wrong, there are some exceptions like The Strangers or Night Swim or Imaginary or whatever.
Oh my god.
But for the most part, I have been enjoying most horror films that have come out this year for sure. So I think it's been a good year. I think it's going to continue to be a good year. Like Caretaker mentioned, we've got some great movies coming out, including what I'm looking forward to the most. The 2 that I'm looking forward to the most probably are Nosferatu and Alien Romulus. Which both of those should be great.
Yeah, honestly, I'm probably mostly looking forward to Nosferatu the most.
Yeah,
if I'm being for real.
Yeah, same here, man. I mean, Robert Eggers has not disappointed yet, and I'm just like so stoked to see his interpretation of it. The trailer looks amazing. I really want to see what Bill Skarsgård's like Count Orlok like actually looks like finally, and knowing that creepy motherfucker is gonna be pretty unsettling. So
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
he's gonna. I think he's gonna do really well in that role. He was a great casting choice for it, so I can't wait for that.
Yeah, agreed.
And Alien Romulus too, especially. I think it will be good, but I really hope that it's like surprisingly even better than what we expect. So
yeah, I mean, the last time Fede Alvarez got his hands on like an existing property and kind of made it its own thing, I think was Evil Dead 2013, and that was great. And this one, knowing that we're kind of going back to like the roots of Alien, on the ship, more like scary atmosphere, like that movie, and pretty much like most, if not all of it, is practically built and designed. I think that's a good sign. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. I am also hoping we get more like good original horror films as well. We've definitely gotten plenty already. Those of course are not as marketed, so it's hard to kind of even know about them until you kind of end up seeing them on some streaming service somewhere or something. But
right,
but
like Oddity kind of came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah,
like, I haven't seen that one yet, but I know you were talking about it, and I would like to get out to go see it, but the other day I was thinking, oh yeah, I might go out on Sunday to go see it, like an earlier showtime, and they didn't have any showtimes until like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and I was like, well, that kind of sucks. I couldn't go that late, so, but I did just watch Caveat for the first time.
Really?
Which was pretty good. Yeah, I've been
dude.
honestly this year I've been watching I've been doing some catching up on some horror in the past that I've missed, or that I just haven't seen yet. So I've a lot of my time has been spent watching a lot of older things this year. But I mean, I have been seeing some of the bigger releases, and one of those. Like Infested, I thought was pretty good too.
That one was definitely pretty good. Well, I didn't even know you watched Caveat, so you're gonna have to tell me what you think about it probably off the podcast later, because that's one of my favorites from the last few years, as you probably know. So I talk about it all the time. So yeah, I like that movie a lot. And obviously, for those who are not in the know, Oddity, same director. That one just came out and is getting some pretty good press, pretty good reviews. Obviously, if you're not following, shameless plug time here, the Grave Discussions TikTok channel and Instagram and Facebook, we post all our reviews on there as well. So I just did an Oddity review. Go check it out. Go check out the Longlegs review and everything else as well. But yeah, speaking of which, awesome. Let's get into maybe one of the most defining horror films of 2024 so far, and as I mentioned before, one of the most divisive, Longlegs. Obviously, this movie, directed by Osgood Perkins, the son of the legendary Anthony Perkins, and also the director of some other divisive movies, including The Blackcoat's Daughter, that one fucking long named one, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, Gretel and Hansel. Those are the big ones. All those movies have been pretty divisive. Longlegs is no different. This one, though, is not only, I think, his most talked about movie, also the most successful film, both critically and financially so far of his. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can't imagine why it wouldn't be. So, I mean, let's just jump right into it. As always, Fiends, we're going to start off with a spoiler-free segment for all of you who may not have seen it yet. And then we're going to get into some spoilers. So once we get there, we'll let you know. And if you want to tune out, go for it. But yeah, let's just jump right into this movie. Just initial spoiler-free thoughts. Whichever you guys wants to go, be my guest.
Okay, so as soon as the movie started, it felt like there was like this weird, like, I don't know how to explain it. This weird, how do I put it into words? Because this movie is so jarring from beginning to end, and it feels like there's like this sort of film over it, like this sort of like weird gray cloud hanging over your head this whole time. Like the whole time I felt like something was with me while I was watching this movie. I don't know how to explain it. Every scene is shot so beautifully, but like at such like good and like close up angles that you feel like almost like you yourself are being taken on this wild ass ride that everyone is going through. And like also the brooding, foreboding music gives this movie that avant-garde style, like much like, you know, The Blackcoat's Daughter, The Dark and the Wicked, like something, like you could tell something is up from the beginning. Like it seems like even like the characters in this movie and the reality in which this movie is set is a reality completely different from ours, in which there's like this weird shadow that envelops the atmosphere of the air that everyone is breathing in. I thought it was beautifully shot. The cinematography was like, I don't know, it was like A fucking plus. It wasn't like, you know, shitty fucking like Imaginary or like, you know, like what other like tarot like cinematography, you know. It was just such a beautiful movie to watch. Much like Maxine was a beautiful movie to watch, but this, like, I don't know. I felt like I was high while I was watching this movie. I don't know how to explain it. I've been sober for I don't know how long, but this entire movie felt like something was just like behind me. Like, I don't know. I felt like as we were getting guided through this movie, nothing was spoon-fed to us. Everything was really implicit, other than, you know, like the little exposition at the end that, you know, every movie has to have, because when a movie is this like implicit, and, you know, I mean, obviously directors know people aren't like paying 100% of attention all the time, because like, I mean, this movie's like, I don't want to say like they fucked up on the marketing. they did good to get people to see it. But this movie drew the attention of like a lot of people that this movie wasn't for. I feel like this movie's more for like the diehard, avant-garde, psychological, atmospheric, horror-loving crowd. And I think a lot of people that showed up were expecting like a shitty Hollywood movie like Ouija or like... Look, I love the Conjuring movies for what they are, but like this was a better movie. Like the Conjuring movies aren't all that. I feel like they're overhyped. Same thing with like Insidious. Like the tone of them, they're not atmospheric. They're just like you're just waiting for a jump scare. This movie, I was not waiting for a jump scare. I felt like my anxiety was revved up to 100 the entire time. From the opening shot to the first scene when they're looking for the guy and they're trying to figure out which house he's in, till the end, I felt like the whole time, like Satan himself was sitting next to me as I was watching this movie. And the acting, I feel, is very top notch. There was not really a dull fucking moment. There were some, and I see a lot of people on Facebook, they'll be like, oh, when Nicolas Cage did XYZ or when this happened, I was laughing. Bro, my entire theater was packed. During those like weirdly uncomfortable scenes with Longlegs, with the singing and all that shit, brother, no one in my theater laughed. Everyone just kind of turned and looked at each other. So I feel like at least in my part of the world, this movie did what Osgood Perkins wanted it to do. I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought the brooding, foreboding music and the close-up shots and the way the story unraveled as they were like hiding hints within the frames, I think everything was done right. And Longlegs himself, he looked a little different than I expected him to look, but it's supposed to look like, you know, a botched 80s glam rockers, like plastic surgery. And, you know, I can see that. I think Longlegs himself was genuinely disturbing. The FBI agent, Harker, is her name Harker? I feel her name's Harker, right?
Yeah, Lee Harker.
She was so fucking, like, I think her stoic nature throughout the entire film, almost like, you know, I thought like she was like on the spectrum or something, but I feel like her character also added to the atmosphere of the movie, because it's not like over the top like acting. She's genuinely like just like plain old shy girl, but also like thinker. Like you could tell like she's like a savant of some sort, you know, and whether that's through like just her naturally, like Lee Harker's character naturally, or if it's because of, you know, the things I don't want to talk about. If it's, you know what I mean? Like, was she like, was her character like this because of those things, or was this how she was naturally? Either way, like, I don't know. This movie felt very surreal. I don't know how to explain it. Like I said, the entire movie felt like it was like in a different reality, and like it was like some Tales from the Dark Side shit, in my opinion. Like it just felt like there was this eerie presence. That's the word I was thinking of. Okay. It felt like this whole movie, like, with every single character, and no character was free from it. Like, looking back now, I realize, like, there was always a weird presence. Like, and that's how, at least, like, that's how I interpreted it. Like, and even at the end when, you know, he's like, I'll be here and a little bit of everywhere. And that's exactly what it felt like. And I feel like Osgood Perkins nailed it. He nailed how he wanted this movie to feel and how it wanted to make us feel. And I think it was beautifully acted, beautifully shot. I love the sound design. I love the character development. I mean, this, for me, personally, not just like as a horror movie, because, you know, you got your 10 out of 10 horror movies, like for me, like Evil Dead, you know? Like, I love the original Evil Dead. But, like, cinema-wise, it's not a great movie. But for a horror movie, it's 10 out of 10. I can honestly say, in terms of horror and, like, just cinema in general, this movie was a 10 out of 10 for me. From the sound design to the acting to the pacing to the storytelling to the character development, everything was a 10 out of 10 for me. You can nitpick, you know, little bullshit if you want about this movie, like everyone does. Like, yeah, you know, there's some things like, why didn't you just tell, you know, the other FBI agents XYZ? But, like, I don't know. I feel like when you do that, that's not what it's for. Just suspend your disbelief, watch this movie, put yourself in that reality in which they are, and just enjoy it. And I know I just went on a long rant, but honestly, I love the movie. This is the one movie in a long time that I was like, wow, I want to own this movie so I can rewatch it again. And yeah, this is gonna be my next Blu-ray buy, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree for the most part with mostly everything that you said. So I've seen it. I've seen it twice now. So the first time I saw it, I was with a pretty big group of people, and it was actually kind of funny. So like you said, the movie was like, it was like drenched in evil. Like you could kind of feel it, and it almost felt like when the movie was over that like you were like, all right, am I cursed now, or like what's going on here? Like, and like you said, it was like this surreal type of thing, and it was actually kind of funny. So like my first theatrical experience with it, I thought it was good. Like I liked it. But I think that the auditorium or the theater that I was at, and I'm not going to call them out, but it wasn't maybe the greatest. And so a lot of the people that I was with, I thought they were going to like it. And I looked at them, and some of them didn't really like it that much. And I was like, wow, like I was actually kind of surprised. But it was a packed theater opening night. But the second time I saw it, which was the following week, like a Tuesday, and it was another packed theater at a different theater chain, and the movie just looked better, played better, sounded better, which like the first time it all was good to me, but like it just enhanced the movie for me. And upon a second rewatch, I feel like the rewatch value with this movie is pretty damn good, because I got a lot more out of Longlegs the second time around than I did the first time around. There was a lot of things kind of going on that I didn't really notice the first time earlier on in the film. There was a lot of things that just made a whole lot more sense to me, things that really clicked with me the second time around that weren't quite adding up the first time that I saw it, or that I just didn't fully understand until I knew what I knew, in the ending of the film. So from an experience standpoint, the second time around was so much better for me. And the group that I went with the second time all pretty much really liked it. Either really liked it or absolutely fucking loved it. And I loved it the second time I saw it. But like you said, the cinematography was one of those things that totally stood out to me. It was phenomenal. The whole film was beautiful looking. Every shot was so fucking good. I loved the use of the wide angle lens that they used for pretty much every single shot throughout the entire film, and it really created these unsettling scenes and moments where you're kind of like, you're paying attention to the character in the shot, but then there's so much space on either side of the character, and you're really kind of like, you're like looking like, is something going to happen? Is something going to happen? And it really creates this cool like tension and unease for the audience and for the viewer. And I thought that was used to perfection in this film, and I really, really, that was one thing that completely stood out to me the first time and the second time, and I think it was great. But like you said, the sound was great. The performances I thought were really, really captivating. And we'll dive more into Lee Harker, Michael Monroe's performance as Lee Harker, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what you said, Sam, about her kind of her performance and how she was acting and all that. We'll dive into that, into probably the spoiler section, because I have some thoughts on that. But I really enjoyed all the performances. Nick Cage, so like the first time around, I did think like he was pretty good. I did like him a lot, but I thought maybe there were a couple moments that I felt maybe he was like a little too, like he just turned it up a little too much. But then on second viewing, every moment that I thought he may have turned it up too much, I was like, no, I think it's actually perfect. I think it's pretty damn good, actually. So I didn't have a problem with it the second time, and I don't know if it's because like I had already like seen it and my expectations were like I just knew what was going on, so I was able to kind of just make peace with it better. But the second time, it just worked so much better for me, and I was just like, yeah, actually, it seems pretty damn good to me. I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't really have a problem with it the first time around. It was just I thought maybe he was like he dialed it up a little too much in a couple of those scenes, but no, they worked for me the second time around. So
you didn't expect it at all the first time, so I think that's what caught a lot of people off guard.
Right. And I think that was, I know that the first group of people that I went with, they were a little, I think, taken aback. And I know that like my first theatrical experience, there was some audience members that were laughing, not specifically, I don't think it was specifically at the Nicolas Cage moments, but there were like subtle laughters in different areas of the movie, and I did kind of hear that kind of went on in some other auditoriums, but I kind of feel like they were uncomfortable laughters in a way. If I had to make a guess,
that's what I think.
Because I could totally understand that and see why. Because like there are some moments where. And I think that's exactly what Oz Perkins was going for with it, was to create this uncomfortability so that you don't know whether to laugh or to be scared, or kind of just like what to do. So like it just kind of evokes this interesting emotion out of you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like like I said, I really liked it. I loved it the second time around. I liked it a lot more than I did the first time around, which I liked it, but like it just enhanced it for me. And yeah, the score was beautiful. Yeah, I think that's good for now until we dive into spoilers. But yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive into the spoilers and really get into the movie, because it does benefit, I think, from like a full analysis. But for all y'all who have not seen the movie yet, hopefully you can at least take away from this our enthusiasm for the film. Obviously, not everybody feels the same way, but collectively we all do, so it's at least worth a shot if you haven't already given it a chance. I will say, though, I definitely agree with both you guys on a lot of what you've said. For me, I went with my wife, and also packed theater, and this was opening night, but like Thursday opening night, like the first actual day of release. So not even Friday when everyone's like out of work, out of school, whatever, and like going to see it. This was like Thursday. So clearly, and this is going to be something that I want to discuss more in depth, not just in this little initial thoughts segment, but the marketing, we kind of hinted at it. Crazy and clearly effective, because we all had like packed theaters. And like you said, Caretaker, even, like 4 or 5 days later, packed theaters. So clearly effective. I'm reading on here now on the Wikipedia that the total marketing budget was under $10 million, focused mostly on digital content, not even like TV ads. I don't even think I really saw it on TV, but obviously everybody's on their computers, on their phones nowadays, on social media. And I saw this movie everywhere. And it wasn't just, little teasers or clips. It was all the super creepy, little clips of Nick Cage, all the ciphers, right? All those like really, really unnerving moments. Just setting up the film, setting up Longlegs, who we never even actually saw fully before the movie came out, which I thought was also very enticing to go see it, because you wanted to see like who this terrifying killer is and everything. So yeah, incredible marketing campaign, one of the best in recent memory of any film, not just horror, in my opinion. It got Studio Neon's, I think this is their most successful film. Actually, definitely their most successful like opening night or opening weekend or something like that. Possibly their best box office performance as well. But anyway, I kind of knew that this was going to be a little bit unique visually and audibly at first, because I had seen all of his other movies. I mean, I was kind of lukewarm on most of Oz Perkins's other films. Like, the pretty thing and stuff, you know, it was okay. I didn't mind it. Hansel and Gretel and Hansel, I thought was all right, interesting interpretation of it, but you know, it was a little dull at times. Aesthetically cool, you know, and I appreciate the ideas that he put into that movie, but something about it like didn't click fully. I don't know if he just tried to do a little too much differently with the story or whatever. Blackcoat's Daughter, I did like.
I love
But
that
this movie, I think, is just on a completely different level. You can just tell right from the get-go with that snowy scene at the beginning, and I'm not going to spoil it, but just like hooks you in immediately. And even a lot of people have said, you know, just from that opening scene, you know, they were scared from that opening scene, and it got me too, I will say. And then I was locked in, you know. But yeah, the movie's awesome. All the technical aspects are great, but I did also really appreciate just the story that it put forward too, and the atmosphere surrounding it. Because, like you both said, the movie was just drenched in something like supernatural, otherworldly. I saw another review that just says like that, you know, and like you both kind of said, it feels like something kind of is sticking with you as you watch this movie. So as Lee Harker is investigating Longlegs and these killings, and she's looking into the ciphers and everything like that, it's really easy, I think, to look back at similar movies like your Silence of the Lambs or Manhunter or Seven or whatever, and kind of think back at those and how those were constructed, you know, the structure and everything. And it's kind of similar, yeah, but this movie has that like additional layer of something to it, right? That clings to you, that makes that whole like investigative process and everything, and those little you know, scenes of stuff in the background or Longlegs coming in, that just makes it feel like that much creepier than all those other movies. And I'm not going to like get into this like long-winded comparison to all those other movies, because there are differences, of course, but yeah, it just feels like different. It just feels like you're waiting for something. It's just constantly anxiety inducing, and I really loved that aspect of it. And then as you like move toward the end, you know, everything kind of just builds up to a head, and crazy shit happens, and you know, you're kind of figuring everything out, and it becomes bigger than what you initially thought it was going to be as well, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, personally, I really like the movie a lot, but I think we can definitely get into some spoilers now, some more specific things. So if you haven't already seen the movie, guys, feel free to stick around if you don't care about spoilers. But if you don't want any, then peace, and go watch Longlegs, and then come back and listen to the rest of this. So, I mean, where do you guys want to start? Diving into some specifics,
Bro, right from the beginning, dude, I was so fucking uncomfortable. Like, I know I said it, but the entire movie I was uncomfortable. Like, and I was just stuffing my face with nachos and stuff before it started, and then by the time the movie started, I was already full, and like, so I was like, just like, all right, now I can like maintain focus, brother. The entire time, I'm not lying to you. It built tension so well with the wide close-up angles and like the brooding fucking music, and like stuff lurking in the background, like the devil following Lee everywhere. The entire time, my heart rate was like 100 or above. Like, it did not drop below 100 the whole time until the very end. I think definitely the shotgun scene was definitely when my heart rate like spiked though. Like near the end, like
that was
the fucking
that was
driver's
great.
side
I love
car
the
door.
way that
Like,
scene's
as soon as
constructed. Yeah,
bro, it was bro, because like as soon as I saw the other FBI agent just sitting in her car from that weird like down low, like almost like Dutchy type angle, I knew like, okay, we're not just watching her for no reason. And then I saw Lee's mom sneaking up, but goddamn, right from the beginning though, I did know that Longlegs was going to kill himself during interrogation because the trailer kind of spoiled that, because you could see Lee Harker in the interrogation room like holding her face and there's blood splattered over the wall. That part of the trailer kind of ruined it for me. I knew Longlegs was going to murder himself in the interrogation room. And then from the beginning, you could kind of, I don't know, it didn't ruin it for me, but did anyone else know that the little girl at the beginning was Lee? Like, I mean, I had a feeling, but I thought they were going to go a different route. I thought that Longlegs was going to like be her dad or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wasn't 100% sure that it was her, but there was a slight inclination. I did have a slight inclination that it might have been her, but at the same time, I was kind of hoping. I was like, I was kind of hoping that maybe she wouldn't be connected to Longlegs directly like that. But even still, I think like it all still worked for me, and it worked for me better the second time, like I've said a million times already. But yeah, I didn't know for sure, but I did have a slight idea, I guess.
It didn't like really ruin it for me either. I just wanted to be. I felt like we've seen millions, not millions. I'm grossly over exaggerating. We've seen so many horror and mystery movies. I just wanted something to come more out of like even more left field and like completely take us, by surprise. Like, I don't want to say the movie's predictable, but like if you've seen as much horror as we've seen, like you kind of saw, like the doll part. I didn't see the doll coming. Like I didn't know if they had anything to do with the murders or anything. Like that part was like, oh, and that part kind of, I was like underwhelmed, but I was like, okay, let's just see where it goes. And it didn't like disappoint me. I just wasn't expecting something so, I don't want to say mundane, but something so simple to like, how did all these people get murdered, and how did the intruder get in? And does this film really specify like what year it is, or is it one of those kind of like It Follows where you can't tell?
It doesn't specifically specify, but I did read that it was 1995, and like you have an idea that it's in the 90s because of like the president's pictures. So you kind of have an idea of like when the timing is for each of these things. Like even there, I think in the axe murder scene, there's like a picture of who is it? Is it Reagan or something?
I think it's Clinton.
No, Clinton is
back in the day,
in the current time, but in the flashback scene when the axe murder is taking place,
I think so.
And the guy's killing his family. I think it's Reagan or somebody on the wall.
Yeah.
So that's the only way you can tell like the time, like when this is. But I did read that it was 1995. If that's correct, but it's somewhere around that time for sure.
According to the internet, the first scene takes place during the 70s, but then like the rest of the movie, pretty much takes place during the 90s.
Which is
that would make sense, because like I was like, how did these, like, because like nowadays, at least 90s even or 80s, like there was not a lot of religious people, so this nun coming to their house and saying like, you won this contest, here's a doll from the church. Like nowadays, people would be like, I don't give a fuck, and close the door. Same thing as like the 90s and stuff. So like these murders must have taken place like anywhere between like 50s and 70s when people were like overtly religious, and then maybe early 80s with the whole satanic panic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because the final years of the satanic panic was like, the, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s, something like that.
Something like that, I believe. Yeah.
So it was. So it's interesting that it kind of lines up with that directly. If when Lee is kind of heading the case and all this stuff is going down with Longlegs and it's I find that interesting. That it's set during that time frame. So with all the satanic cults and satanic abuse and everything, and Lee Harker's experience with all of that, I guess, having like kind of how like I'm not super well informed on all of that stuff with the satanic panic, but I do know that like there were like kids who were like had like repressed memories and things like that, if I remember correctly on what I kind of read about it, but Lee Harker's character has kind of those, she has repressed memories that she's like, because clearly like she was that girl and she had that experience, and she grew up with Longlegs in the house, and he was kind of like a father figure to her a little bit, in a sense. And that's also why I find Longlegs, like, Daddy Longlegs, like that title interesting for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that all of that pretty fascinating. I think it's pretty interesting that it takes that kind of that route with it. So,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, going back to the first kind of point, I didn't mind that, it ended up being like her. Obviously, I think her being connected to Longlegs in that way is interesting, considering the whole context of the film. Like, once you get to the end of the film, I think everything makes a lot more sense as far as like her character, her connection to Longlegs, where everything kind of ends up. But no, I at first I didn't really think it was her. To be completely honest, I thought it was just like another one of his victims, sort of thing. But the fact that it didn't like show anything happening, obviously was kind of a flag that, okay, there's probably more to this like little girl than meets the eye or whatever. But I mean, overall, I didn't find that the movie was like too predictable. I mean, sure, you could kind of like see what was happening and pick up on maybe the next like logical thing that could occur, but I definitely didn't expect. I mean, I figured the mother was like weird. I didn't know to what extent fully she was involved in everything, but even just the first time you could hear her on the phone, I was like, there's something not quite right with this lady.
Right.
And like Lee's connection to Longlegs and everything that was going on. I mean, I kind of had a hint that maybe there was something there. I did not expect Longlegs to just like come out of her basement, though. I thought that part was a really cool scene. Just like that.
I did.
Okay.
I did expect him to be in the basement, because like she had, when Lee was like visiting her mom and she saw all those keys. And then there was that door that was just locked. And obviously it was, the basement door. Because that's always like the basement is always Pandora's box in horror movies. And then the closet is always like the safe place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of, as soon as I saw, there was keys to like this door, and I'm like, oh, that's the basement door. And I turned to my fiance and I was like, Longlegs is living in mom's basement. And she's like, oh, T. And I was like, yes, T.
Well, okay, I guess I'm just a dumbass then. But to be fair, in my defense, I was vibing with it and I was unsettled, so I wasn't thinking straight. But I thought that was a cool revelation nonetheless. And yeah, I definitely didn't expect like the doll thing or anything, which I think that once the dolls got introduced, I personally liked. I thought it was a pretty unique inclusion to the plot and added just another like element of what the fuck is going on. I think that is probably where a lot of people got lost with the movie, but I think that the movie did a pretty good job overall explaining kind of what the hell is going on, because as I alluded to, this is definitely a controversial flick. There is that one like big segment, which is one of my only maybe small like nitpick complaints about the movie, is the whole exposition scene that Ruth, Lee's mother, gives. I said this in my TikTok review. I think that could have been done maybe a little bit more naturally. And I don't want to bring up another movie and compare, but God, neither of you have seen Oddity, but I'll just say this much. There's a little bit of exposition in that movie that I think happens a lot more naturally than in Longlegs. Longlegs is just, here's like a flashback and they're laying together and she's like giving this wistful explanation of everything that happens. And I don't know, it felt a little off to me, but the fact remains that scene explains a lot of what's going on in this movie. And I think from that point to the end of everything, it doesn't give you everything on a silver platter, but I think it's relatively simple enough to kind of at least infer what is happening. You know, you see these dolls, they kind of explain what the dolls are all about. They explain kind of, you know, Lee's connection to everything. They explain Ruth's connection to everything and her motives and like Longlegs' motives and all this other stuff. And, you know, if you pay attention, you see the devil in the background and a lot of shots with Lee, you know, so you can kind of assume it's exerting its influence on her, that sort of thing. So I think with Oz Perkins's movies especially, you know, there's a lot of elements of that kind of surreal nature. There's a bit of, you know, kind of abstract stuff and some things that are intentionally, you know, vague. I don't want to say unexplained, but just not like spoon-fed, because I think every good movie needs a little bit of both, right? You need to at least have that level of engagement where you can use your critical thinking skills and connect the dots on things and make inferences, but, you know, still allow the characters themselves to figure out what the hell is going on and you know, explain it to themselves, especially in a movie like this where it's like an investigative thriller, right? She's an FBI agent. That's kind of just a natural, right, like par for the course thing that's going to happen in the movie is just these explanations and her figuring stuff out. So I think this movie had a pretty good balance of that. I just think, unfortunately, a lot of people probably missed a lot of stuff. Or maybe we just watched
That's
too many
why I hate
movies.
horror fans.
I agree with that.
This movie made me realize how much I fucking hate horror fans, because all the fucking comments online, even in Horror Movie Addicts on TikTok, they're like, I wish we got more look into the background of Longlegs. I wish we got more explanation. Bro, no one cares. Like, you don't want anything to be left, like, to mystery, to, like, your imagination even. That sounds lame, but, like, at least there needs to be some sort of, like, mystery, some sort of, like aura to it. It has to have some sort of, like, mysterious aura. Everyone wants everything fucking spoon-fed to them, and at least to an extent, like, implicitly, like, I would like a reason, or at least a movie to, like, maybe do flashbacks of some of the stuff we missed, like little minor things. But bro, all these people online are complaining. We need a backstory. Why does he kill people? Why does he, bro? I swear to, like, bro, shut up. I'm so sick of you motherfuckers online with your fucking why, like, even with, like, the Michael Myers thing, like, it's so annoying. Like, with the Michael Myers new movies, well, why is he evil? Did his parents do magic and sell his soul to a cult? Bro, no one gives a shit. Like, the part of, like, mystery is a big, like, they just want everything explained away, because, like, everyone, like, wants this, like, fucking dopamine surge, like, instant gratification TikTok bullshit, because, like, that's all people fucking know it nowadays, and everything is spoon-fed. Like, like, they want every fucking horror movie antagonist to come out like a fucking James Bond villain and reveal their master plan. Like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like, I can't stand horror fans nowadays. And nowadays, when people even say, like, I'm a horror fan, they'll be like, oh, what's your... I love Friday the 13th. I love Scream. I love... Bro, you're a fucking cookie cutter horror fan. And if you literally sit there and legitimately think that these movies that you think are great are actually great movies and not just great for being horror, you are, like, delusional. This one was a good movie in itself. Like, horror aside, this was a good movie. And just the fans of horror just, like, kill me, bro, because it's always the same thing. I go to their profile and they're either, like, fucking outside of their fucking trailer, or they're, like, it's outside of their fucking, I don't know, like, fucking upper middle class house with the American flag outside, and I'm like, I can see why you have the opinion you do. Sorry guys, I just had to fucking rant that out, because, like, I literally good. Like, I've never wanted to fight people as much as I've wanted to fight people reading their online comments, like, about this movie.
Oh, people irritate me with their online comments, not only about this movie, just in general. People are just
I swear
just fucking ridiculous. But see, to your point though, is they want that stuff, right? They want everything spoon-fed and super explained, and they want to know the backstory and all this, all this stuff. But then when a movie comes out that does give you exactly that, that movie's absolute trash. And there's a reason why those movies don't work. It's because you leave nothing to mystery. You leave
exactly
when there's nothing left to mystery, there's nothing to grab onto, to like hold on to and be like, yeah, that's interesting, that made me think. Like, no, nothing, it doesn't make you think at all. So that's why most people don't like those kinds of movies. It's why those movies and stories don't typically work, because they just that's not a good story to be told.
Exactly.
And it's just not. So when people are asking for like a prequel to Longlegs because they want more of Longlegs and they want more of like his setup and what he did, like, no, it's not necessary. Like, we got enough of that in this one.
It's not at all. And the fact, like, and them saying they want that, if you hear them saying they want that, they've missed the point. They've completely missed the point of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, back to Longlegs himself. So like, I thought his character was done really, really well in this. I loved from the opening how it doesn't show his face, and it just shows like the bottom of his his basically like his mouth down. And I loved that it kind of cut him out and it didn't really show him up until like, I don't know, what, halfway through the movie or so.
Something like that.
And
yeah.
It kept giving you a little bit more. Like, it gave you like a glimpse of him when he was in that store, when he like draped his hands over his face and stuff. And but it didn't show his complete face, like the way that scene was edited and cut together. Like, you kind of saw the backside of him, and then you saw his face with his hands kind of draped over his eyes and stuff. And I just love how it just slowly kind of unveiled him. And when you finally see him, you just see that he's like, and I do think you get enough of his character in this one, and you can create like that backstory and understand why he looks the way he looks, acts the way he acts, and why, not necessarily like how he got into it, but of course, like, he's obsessed with the devil, and you don't have to understand why he's obsessed with the devil. He just became obsessed with the devil in some capacity, and that's like, that's how, like, it just happens with, I guess, people. I don't know, but anyways, but like, his character, like, he like clearly like he's gotten all this like face work done, like poor face work, but he's gotten this face work done, and he like has this like this like rock star type of mentality in a way, where he's like, singing in scenes and like certain moments, and he's got the long hair, and he's like just like this like 80s like rock star like type of vibe, like kind of like Marilyn Manson or something. And it's clear that, at least to me, like, he's like trying to impress the devil, like, with everything that he's doing. So like, he's living out these things that he's doing to these children, and he's like making these dolls, the doll maker, he's making these dolls and putting like a piece of the devil in their heads, and he's just carrying out the devil's work. And I think that he just ultimately wants to like be like the best version of himself when he gets to meet the devil face to face for when he dies. And that's why like when he's killing himself in the interrogation room, it's like cathartic for him in a way. And it's just like, that scene is so brutal, which like I know you mentioned, Steph, that it was spoiled for you, but for me, like, I really like, I do my best a lot of times to avoid a lot of the longer trailers.
I should have,
because I feel like they just give so much away. And like I saw like the snippet trailers, like the little like 15-second or 30-second, however long they are, trailer, like a couple of them on, social media and stuff for this. And that was all I needed. I was totally sold on this movie. But thankfully, that scene wasn't spoiled for me. Like, I didn't know that was going to be coming. So when the scene happened, I was just like, oh shit, like, okay, like, and then I wasn't sure exactly where the rest of the movie was going to go. Like, I had some ideas because of how things had played out, but I didn't know for sure. But the way that everything kind of unfolded after that, I thought was pretty interesting. And then to touch base on the exposition dump at the end that you were referring to, I think that expedition. Why the fuck do I keep saying expedition? That
it's a journey.
Exposition dump. It was a journey, let me tell you.
I swear.
The exposition dump did not. So, like, the first time around, I kind of felt the same, like, similar to you, Barnabas, in that it might have felt a little bit better if it just felt a little more organic in the way that it was brought to life. But the second time watching it, maybe it was just because I had already seen it and I knew kind of like how it went and understood it, and I had made peace with it. But the second time around, it worked a lot better for me. Like a lot of things in the movie did. So I didn't have as much of an issue with it the second time I saw it. So I don't know, maybe you'll feel the same when you guys check it out a second time. But I mean, there was still, obviously there could have been room for like a couple of those things to kind of be probably put into the story a little bit more organically. But I did enjoy that. And then right after you get that scene, which, like, I love that whole kind of scene from the moment that she shows up at her mom's house. And like you said, the scene where her partner is shot by her mother in the car, and then it leads to like the doll maker and the exposition, and not the doll maker, but the doll, Lee's doll and everything, and the mother shooting the doll and Lee passing out. I thought the way that was constructed was really interesting, and I loved how it did when Lee woke up. So like the whole movie, when it cuts to like the flashbacks and to some of the, well, I guess all the flashbacks, it's like the letterboxed framing. And when Lee wakes up after her doll the head's been blown off, and she passes out, because clearly, like, she was connected to that, as all of the children are. They're all connected to that doll. Like, it's like a tether for the devil. And she, her mother kills the doll because it's time.
Yeah.
And so she does that, and Lee passes out because she's directly connected to the doll all these years, the devil and the doll. And which I think is why she acted the way that she acted. The whole movie up to that point, how she was just so like monotone in a way. And like you said, like felt kind of like maybe autistic or savant or something. But I think it was mainly just due to the fact that she was tethered to the devil, and the devil was like controlling half of her. Like, there's that scene when she's talking to the little girl, the other detective's little girl, and she asks her, like, did you always want to be an FBI agent when you grew up? And she says, no, I wanted to be an actor or an actress when I grew up. And I think that's an interesting line in the movie, because I really think that is what she always really wanted to do, but the devil had different plans for her. And the devil guided her down this path to do this specifically. That's why I find the ending pretty fascinating, which we'll dive into that later, but like the actual ending of the movie. But anyway, like, I found all of that pretty interesting, and I think that's why she acted the way that she acted throughout the entire movie. And a lot of people, well, not a lot, but I've heard some people take issue with that and say like, oh yeah, her performance was bland and this or that. And I'm like, well, no, it wasn't really bland. It was just what the character called for in those moments. And I thought Micah Monroe knocked it out of the park with that.
Yeah.
And then from the moment that that scene happens with all the exposition and the mother blowing Lee's doll's head off, and the ball breaking and bursting into smoke and everything. When she wakes up, when Lee wakes up, she's like in Longlegs' bed in the basement, and it has the shot where like she's slowly waking up, and it's the 4-3 like letterboxed framing, and everything opens up very slowly. And I think like it's interesting because I think it signifies how Lee like was like this the entire time, right? She was like in a half of a shell of herself, and like when that happens, she kind of becomes like full again. So when the aspect ratio goes from that letterbox framing to a full widescreen again, it's like a release almost for her, which I found pretty cool. Like just from like a technical standpoint, I was like, oh, that's a pretty unique way to kind of show that and utilize that. And then it not only does that, but then it does this like upside down framing when she like crawls out of bed. It like tilts down, and the frame is completely upside down. So it's like she's not actually, at least this is kind of how I took it, like she's gone from herself, which is like just like regular framing, to like that closed in shell, to now like this upside down framing, which is like a version of herself that is kind of like the upside down triangle in a sense. At least that's kind of how I interpreted it. And so I found it all very, very interesting, but like really cool in the way that Oz Perkins set a lot of that stuff up and did it. So anyway, I've been rambling for a while. I'll let somebody else talk.
No,
But
you're good. Yeah, I haven't really given my opinions on the characters at all yet, but you definitely, I think, nailed it. Because I was gonna say personally, I appreciated that we got the character of Lee Harker, because I think it's not, like, not that these characters are extinct, but I feel like it's pretty rare that you get like a protagonist that has her kind of personality, right? Where she's a little bit more reserved. She's just very poised and precise in her actions and her words. She doesn't really say much, and she's a little bit, I don't want to say antisocial, but just you can tell that she's not great with people. Even though she's an FBI agent, she's very kind of academic, and just, I don't know, I'm trying to articulate it the best way I can, but you know what I mean. She's just a little bit different. She's not like your typical, charismatic, kind of extroverted almost, hero or anything like that. In a way, I suppose you can compare her to like a Clarice or something like that. There are a lot of comparisons being made to Silence of the Lambs, but I think
a little bit, yeah,
a little bit. But her overall journey, I think, is really interesting in just the way that you described Caretaker. That she, obviously you find out after everything is said and done, but yeah, she kind of started off as this kind of bubbly little girl, right, wearing these bright colors in the beginning of the movie, and she kind of seems to not really have too much of an issue talking to this like strange pale man that just approaches her house, right, kind of thing. Whereas you would think, looking at her grown up, that she would have been a little bit more repressed as a kid, maybe a little bit more nervous kind of thing. So already you can see that influence of the devil on her. And then toward the end, we'll go more into it, but also is a little bit different as well. So she definitely goes through stages, which I think is good. I think it's interesting evolution. I think the revelations and the twists in this movie play well to her character changing in a unique way And yeah, definitely, I think Maika Monroe kills it. She's been in kind of an understated new scream queen for a while, and I really like her and everything I've seen with her so far. And Nicolas Cage, of course. I mean, I think to the makeup team's credit, a lot of people have been saying that if they didn't know it was Nicolas Cage already, then they may not have actually realized it while watching the movie that it was Nick Cage. I think there are definitely moments where you get some of that, gonzo kind of Nick Cage personality coming through, especially when he's like singing and doing his, crazy shit. At least I did. So even if I didn't know it was Nick Cage, I think I could have maybe like got it from those moments. But in all the other moments, I think he does a pretty good job just being Longlegs, and the makeup and everything I think is effective. Obviously the singing and all the zany stuff, I don't think anybody really expected it. I think the movie's marketing did do a good job of portraying him as just this like super unsettling, weird, terrifying villain, especially in not the full trailers, but especially in some of those shorter, promotional like teasers. There was one especially where it's just like a security camera footage or something of him, like, and it just shows his back, so you don't even really see his face or anything. You see his hair, you see his long legs, and he's in his outfit, and he's just like walking, and I don't know, it's just really creepy. So I don't think really anybody expected that. I personally did kind of dig it because it adds, I think, this necessary otherness to everything. And once you kind of understand who he is as a character, I think it makes sense. I think a lot of people were expecting that he was going to be the guy, the main guy, right? That there wasn't really going to be anything bigger than him in this movie, that he was going to be this like fucking, I don't know, like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer type of shit, or some like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer type of like killer or something like that, where it's just going to be like stone cold, terrifying, like super
for sure.
dark, serious, mysterious energy. And then he comes out, not once, not twice, but as many times as I like. And everyone's like, what the fuck is going on here? And I felt the same way, but I think it was kind of cool because that, in a way, is almost more unsettling because one, you don't expect it, and two, it's just so different than everything else in the movie, and you can just tell he's like fucking unhinged. Go ahead.
It throws you off,
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, like it's those scenes that really like make you feel uncomfortable. And like I said earlier, like I think that's why some people kind of like laughed a little bit, because they didn't know. They were like, whoa, what the fuck's going on here?
And let's be honest.
I think it's effective.
Sorry.
I think it's effective. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. I mean, because I think
Longlegs is like he's like the guy that like you're sitting at McDonald's and he's sitting there saying all that crazy shit, and then you accidentally make eye contact with him and he starts like conversing with you, and you're just trying to like understand what the fuck he's talking about, but you have no fucking idea, so you just kind of go along with it, and he has no idea that you don't have any idea, nor does he care because he's absolutely batshit crazy. But then you leave the McDonald's like, bro, I feel like I just got like assaulted, like my psyche just got fucking raped. Like that's like he's like the fucking like he's like the guy on the bus that talks to himself, and you're like, oh, he's just crazy. Like, but no, it's like he's like that, and then crank that up to like 100.
For sure. I mean, that's kind of what I was going for. Is that if you met this person in real life, and you're not watching a movie, I mean, sure, you could still be totally unnerved and afraid of like your Jeffrey Dahmer type of character or whatever. But in a way, I think I would be way more unsettled seeing this guy, doing his freaky shit and like talking to me and like singing at me and knowing that there was something like not right about this guy. and I wouldn't be laughing in real life. Probably, I'd be like, "Get me out of here." So,
Well, it's like that girl in that scene when he's
Yeah.
like, "What's your birthday?" And she's like, "Dad, that creepy guy's back again."
yeah, exactly.
Like that's pretty much how you'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna fucking deal with this guy."
But then, considering the context of the movie, it almost like leaves for some vulnerability too, because especially with like his intended target, which is these kids, in that way, because he's kind of wacky. Maybe it allows him to initially kind of connect with the kids a little bit more and sort of like get in with the families that way, impress himself on the kids. Whereas if he was just like overtly disturbing or creepy to the kids, that might not be the case. That's kind of his MO. So in that way, I think his character flows. I think it makes sense. And I appreciate that it is different, because I think, through all the years of cinema, I'm not saying it's easy to write like a Hannibal Lecter type of character, right? That like sophisticated psychopath or sociopath. But more often than not, in these types of movies, you get that sort of character with those kind of personality traits. Whereas in this one, he's just a fucking cracked out fanatic of the devil, and he's willing to do anything. And he makes these weird like dolls that possess families, and it's just not what you expect. And in my opinion, that's not a bad thing. But
Yeah, I agree. I think, and that's why I think that the similarities with like the Silence of the Lambs kind of stops at like FBI agent hunting down a serial killer. I think that's kind of where the similarities end. Like, I don't see much more Silence of the Lambs in this movie than that, and like, I think that's I think it's a good thing, because, I mean, if it was anything more, then it would just be kind of like like a rehash, like reimagining of a Silence of the Lambs type of movie, and that's why I think this movie works so well, is because it just is very different and individual from anything that we've ever seen before. And specifically, Longlegs' character is very different and individual from anything that we've ever seen before. Sure, like he's a mix of like things that maybe we've seen in the past, but he definitely like he's completely different, and he's obsessed with the devil, and he makes creepy fucking look-alike dolls to little girls, which is like a whole nother layer to Longlegs, that he's like this very sophisticated craftsman, which is just another interesting angle. But yeah, like it has, I think it's cool because like it does have like those similarity, like that small similarity to Silence of the Lambs, but then it like has like a Zodiac type of like feeling to it a little bit, with like the way that Longlegs writes the ciphers and misspells some of his words, and then kind of like Seven in a way, with some of the gruesomeness of like the scene when like they show the dead body and the maggots are all over it because it's been sitting there for however long, couple weeks or whatever. But yeah, this movie really stands on its own in cinema, I think, with just like a very original, different take on this type of film. And I think that the angle it takes in the end, I know some people were disappointed with the supernatural route that it ended up going. And like for me, like I'm different when I watch movies. Like I just try and enjoy the ride as it's happening. Like
me too.
I don't like to really judge a movie based on my expectations of a movie. Because I just find that very wrong, and just kind of spoils the movie a little bit too. So I try my best to not do that. I just try my best to really just enjoy the ride. And I thought the ride was pretty damn good. Like the ending, I thought was not what I expect. It did definitely went to places that I didn't expect it to go to, in the supernatural route and with the devil and everything. I didn't fully expect it to go that route. And some people find that like cult stuff and that devil stuff kind of overplayed, but I felt like it worked for this movie pretty well, because I thought that it was done well and effectively. So yeah, so
I feel like you guys hit the nail on the head on everything. I mean, people can be disappointed with the supernatural aspect all they want, but going into this, like even like I don't know, they should have known it was like supernatural. I felt like it was kind of like implied in the trailer. I mean, then if you didn't really like know, then like you knew something was up when they were all in that room and they were watching that TV of Longlegs, and he was literally looking at them in the room through the TV and like pointing at them and talking to them and like directing what he was saying like toward them, and he's like, and you and you and you. I feel like there couldn't be, I don't think, any sort of like explanation if there wasn't a supernatural aspect to it. It wouldn't work, like unless like, oh, we couldn't find how Longlegs was getting into their house, and then some like shitty explanation like, oh, he would take off their siding, put a hole through the siding, crawl in, and then crawl back out and like put the siding on the house back on. You know what I mean? It would have been something way like left field if it wasn't supernatural. I really felt like Osgood really thought out how he wanted this to go, and a lot of people do think the devil worship side is really played out, and I think that's just the way people go about it gets played out, because I've heard people even say about this one, oh, so haunted dolls, basically Annabelle, like completely missing like the point of like the balls inside of the dolls being the essence of Satan that that Longlegs had crafted and got into their house, and then the the essence of Satan would render like the kids like in a sort of like neutral, like doped up state, and like would like manipulate the dad into killing them and stuff like that. And then with the ending though, I did want to talk about what do we think, at least with what's his name, Carter's daughter, without that ball being destroyed and Harker just like leaving it, what would be like, is there any resolution with that, or is she's just going to be in a state like Harker was, where all these memories are suppressed? I think Harker might have, I mean, she could have grabbed the doll and bashed its head in, but I think she probably didn't want Carter's daughter to remember any of that horrible shit that she saw her dad do, and him getting killed, and then Harker's mom getting killed. So I think like maybe for like the little girl's sake, do we think that Harker just like left the doll intact so that Carter's daughter doesn't remember the events?
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's difficult to say. I mean, Caretaker, I know you have some thoughts on this, I'm sure, but for me at least, thinking about it a little bit more, it kind of seems like it may be inferring that it's possible that Lee may go down the same path as her mother, or feel like she has to, because maybe she feels like she may have to essentially continue Longlegs and her mother's legacy in order to spare this girl. But at the same time, yeah, like you said, maybe if she destroys the doll, she'll have those memories and she'll be fucked up and like traumatized, or maybe in some other type of way the devil may still try to like control them. I also wasn't entirely sure if maybe now that Lee is freed, maybe like I think her name is Ruby, the daughter of Carter. I wonder if in a way her doll is now influencing Lee as well, even though she's not her family member or whatever. I feel like maybe that's possible. So there's a lot of different ways, I think, to interpret the ending, which personally I like. There definitely have been people that have been like, oh, I don't like the ending. Why did it leave off like that? I don't get it. It's not neat and tidy. But not everything needs to be neat and tidy. I like to go with the thought that in one way or another, it just seems like, it's this like never ending cycle of evil, of like this satanic influence kind of thing, just like living in these characters' lives. And it is depressing, and
that's usually the
cynical ending, but that's just how it is sometimes.
And that's usually the explanation in these like supernatural movies with even like the devil and like demons, that you can continuously fight evil but like can never destroy it, and it's all, a cycle, and it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, and that was a constant theme in this movie for sure, that it was just like evil is going to always find a way to integrate itself into people's lives. And that was, I felt that theme like oozing from this movie heavily. But as for the ending, I do pretty much, I think, agree with Barnabas with what he said. I do think that, so Lee's there and she kills her mother and she kills Agent Carter, and she, clearly can't blow the doll's head off, and the doll is tethered to the girl, and it's possible that the doll might now be tethered to her. It's not completely clear, but I do think that there's some part of, because it was like, for me, like in the way that the movie portrays certain things, like the way that Ruth, Lee's mom, like some of her dialogue and the things that she says, she like alludes to the fact that Lee is going to carry on, and she, like, Ruth kind of like carries out these actions that only make sense if she truly believes that Lee is going to carry this stuff on. Like, she releases her, like, by like blowing the head off of her doll and like, bursting the metal ball and like bursting that tether with the devil, like, because I think that they know it's time for her to like carry out her duties, which, and I think, like, referring back to that shot that I talked about earlier where like her world is like flipped upside down, kind of like the upside down triangle, right after she wakes up from that, like, after she passes out. That's kind of how I interpret it. So I think that that's kind of what the movie's saying, is that she is now going to start carrying out these actions, even though she thinks that she's been freed. So like the ending works for me on that level, because I do think that it, like, that's what it's signifying. But it like, things were definitely messy. I'm not saying messy from a filmmaking standpoint. I'm just saying messy from like, they just got messy because that's how the story kind of went to be. And sometimes, like, things aren't always going to work out perfectly, like in life, just like like if you write a good story, they're not always going to work out perfectly in a good story too.
Yeah.
So like, I do think that that's kind of what it was meaning. And now Ruth, the little girl, is kind of going to be like the next Lee Harker in a sense, is kind of what I was gathering. So she's going to be tethered to this, to the devil for a long time, until the devil has plans for her. And she's kind of like the next little girl that's going to grow to be, a pawn for the devil eventually, that, does, these things and has these like half psychic abilities like Lee had. And, which I thought was like, the first time I saw it, I thought that was really interesting, and I didn't know exactly like where that was going until I realized, like, that it was the devil the whole time. And I was like, oh, okay, like that totally makes more sense, because I thought they were going to play more on that throughout the movie, which they kind of did, but they didn't play on it as much as I thought. But then when I realized what was actually happening, I was like, oh fuck, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because like in that scene when she's like being shown all those images, one of the, like, there's like a couple images, and I can't remember what the one for the mother is, but I know that she says like mother, father, like back to back. And the father, when she says father, it's the upside down triangle, which is like, oh yeah, okay, that's like father, daddy long legs. Like that's it, like clearly like repressed memories that she had, and until they kind of flood back to her towards the end. But yeah, I definitely think that that's kind of what it was meaning, was she's going to carry out these things in some capacity. I don't know exactly how. It doesn't really, allude to anything like that, but I do think like Ruth is tethered and going to be tethered to the devil for until she's ready, like Lee is apparently, for what's next.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's a safe enough assumption of the ending. And yeah, I was going to get into more of, I don't want this to be a whole long drawn out thing. I think we're kind of nearing the end, but this movie is definitely, I think, a good case study on just expectations as well. We've kind of been talking about a lot of that stuff, not expecting Nick Cage, his character, to be what he is, not expecting this movie to really be supernatural in that type of way. And I'm very much like you too, Caretaker, and I know you, Samuel, as well, that, when we watch a movie, we try to put those expectations and stuff aside, and we try to just judge the movie on its own merits for what it is as we're watching it, and not really thinking about those kind of things. And I think for what the movie set itself up to be with the marketing, I think what we got, I enjoyed that it sort of flipped it on its head and introduced like so many aspects that I never even thought of when I was looking at the marketing materials and everything else. Clearly not the case for a lot of people. They were expecting something else, and unfortunately a lot of people come in with expectations, and if those expectations are not met, then they don't like the movie. They think the movie's trash or whatever, or they expect characters to be perfect, and that's just not the case. I mean, in real life, maybe you would have done a lot of the same things that these characters did, or maybe you would have done something completely different, but who's to say what the right thing in any given situation is anyway. So that's why I called this movie so divisive. I think there is going to be still a lot of that dialogue moving forward, not only just about the ending, but just about the whole movie in general. A lot of people want it to be a Silence of the Lambs kind of thing. I'm glad it's not, because for one thing, we don't really have too many of these like supernatural kind of like crime thrillers in the first place.
Yeah.
They used to make a little more of them. I feel like in the early 2000s or late 90s, they did make some of them then, I think.
I mean, the last one, like really like, devil worship and like, stuff like that was like Deliver Us from Evil.
Yeah,
I think that was like the last one.
But we definitely don't get as many of them, and that movie I think kind of flopped.
It did,
anyway.
for sure. It didn't have the same kind of tone, same kind of atmosphere, and it was like it wasn't like a serious. I mean, I don't know. It just like I thought it was like a little stinker. It was just basically Boo Haunted House.
Yeah, Deliver Us from Evil was okay. It just kind of flopped, and then yeah, you're right, Caretaker. We did get like more of those movies a little bit in like the late 90s maybe, or like early 2000s. Like I watched one not too long ago with Denzel Washington. I don't know if either of you guys have seen it, but it was called Fallen.
It's been on my list.
Yeah.
That's is John Goodman in that too?
I think, yeah, I believe so.
The one with him.
That one was solid. We used to get movies like that. Sam, I know you're gonna know this one, that Lord of Illusions. Not exactly the same kind of vibe, but like similar. It's like that PI or whatever, and it's like supernatural. So we used to get more movies like that. But the point is that we don't get too many like that nowadays, and so I think it's cool to kind of set up that expectation, like, oh, Silence of the Lambs, and then do something like this, where by the end of the movie, it's very overtly satanic, and just has you going like, what just happened?
The last movie I can think of that like did something even similar to this and it made me scared, like that the revelation was going to be that Lee Harker is Longlegs and Longlegs doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The last movie that did something like this, that captured like a good atmosphere and good storytelling and all that, I believe was Angel Heart.
Angel Heart's a great one. Have you seen that, Cody?
No, I almost turned it on the other night. Honestly,
You should have.
I'm gonna watch it
Holy
very
shit.
soon though.
No,
'cause it's
you
been at
have
the
to.
top of my
You
list.
have to watch it. You have to watch it.
I was like, I know I've heard you guys talk about it a couple times before. I know you guys might have even did a podcast on it.
We did.
in
We
the
did
past,
do an
I
episode
think,
on
that
it. Yeah.
And I listened to a little bit of it, but not a whole lot because I didn't want to get too many spoilers for it.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, that's been on my list for a while, and literally like I said, I've been catching up on a lot of horror movies that I haven't seen this year. So I've been watching a bunch of stuff, just all sorts of things. Like I just watched Tenebrae that I had never seen before the other night. That was what I watched instead of Angel Heart, actually.
I love that one.
So, and that one was pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
No, that's a good replacement.
But yeah, Angel Heart, I'll be watching pretty soon for sure. It'll definitely be within the next like 10 days, I'd say.
Yeah, if you liked Longlegs, you will definitely like Angel Heart. Like it's one of the it's a 80s movie that wasn't completely like schlocky and comedic and like actually had atmosphere and story.
And if you don't know anything about it going in, the twist is pretty insane. Sam, you and I watched it, I think, for the first time together, right? And the twist got us fucked up. So
Yeah, bro, because like it wasn't even just a twist, but what the main character did and who he was that made like some of the things that happened like gross and like fucking crazy and like holy shit. Like I don't know, you just need to watch it. I'm telling you, bro. Like
Oh yeah.
it's great. But
Well, I'm gonna text you guys both after I watch it.
You should. Yeah, but that's my thing. You know, I'm glad that Oz Perkins kind of subverted those expectations with this. So, in my opinion, kind of a genius marketing campaign overall. Set it up in one way, and yeah, it has elements of that. You know, kind of gritty, investigative crime thriller kind of thing. Obviously very highly stylized and clearly polished to an almost like obsessive degree. Like a lot of this movie reminds me of that kind of obsessive sort of filmmaking of like Wes Anderson or David Fincher and guys like that. You know, I mean, even just from all the shots, like, and I didn't really mention this, and I know we're kind of past the point now, but I just want to mention a lot of the cinematography you guys were talking about. Loved it. Not only just for like, you know, the emptiness in the sides, but I love that a lot of this was kind of like clearly filmed static on like a tripod, or at least whatever resembled it, until we got those really intense action scenes. But I thought that was cool. Actually, one of my favorite scenes in the movie was shot in that type of way, with just like some very simple tracking shots with some static shots and some like low angles, which is when Lee Harker she like opens the letter addressed to her from Longlegs, and she's just in her cabin alone that one night, and then that's when you like see Longlegs, I think, you know, in her house. I really love that scene. I think that was a really effective scene, and cinematography really helps that. But the point is,
was great.
Yeah,
You
very
see the
very
devil outside. And
Oh yeah.
it
That was one of the coolest
cool.
moments of it.
Very
I loved picking out where the devil is in like so many of the scenes, and I'm sure I missed some. Supposedly, there's like 15 instances.
There's
or
a
something
bunch.
Like that.
Yeah, there's 15 or something like that. I think you're right with 15, but like I totally like I noticed some stuff the first viewing for sure, but the second time like I caught a lot more, but I still feel like I missed maybe a few, because if there's 15, I feel like I didn't see 15. I didn't count them all the second time. I saw more the second time, but I still feel like I maybe missed a few.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. That's why I think this movie has really cool, really great rewatch value, because I think you just get a lot more out of it on a second or even maybe even a third viewing. because you understand what's going on better. You're able to kind of make connections to things earlier in the movie a little bit better, and things just become more clear, which is interesting in itself because like it's almost like Lee Harker, like she's so disconnected from herself like the whole time, which is like we kind of are the same way in our first viewing because we don't exactly understand what's going on until we truly understand, and then like all our other viewings are like a little bit more clear as it goes. So
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
but I did want to, something that I forgot to bring up earlier when we were talking about the ending with Ruth and everything was, I forgot, but when I was looking at the IMDb page for like the characters and stuff, I came across that there was an adult version of Ruth that apparently is in the cast, but she's not in the movie.
You think you mean Ruby, right? Ruby is the little
Ruby.
girl's
I'm
name?
sorry.
Yeah.
Ruth is the mother. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm mixing it up. But yes, Ruby. And so there's an adult version of Ruby who it was cast, and she's on the IMDb page.
But like, where is she?
I think it's got to be, it has to be that she was, her scene must have been cut. So I'm very curious to see if like when the movie's released physically, if there's going to be deleted scenes, and if that scene is going to be included, if we're going to be able to find out what that scene is, because that could allude to something that we didn't necessarily know, like what we're talking about with the ending, how it's like, you know, left up for kind of that interpretation of like how she's connected and tethered to the devil now, and with Lee and everything. Like if there's a scene that takes place like, you know, in 2020 or 2024, like today, like 30 years later or whatever, I don't know, or even I don't know, the actress looks kind of younger. She looks like she's maybe like in her like mid 20s, so maybe it's only like, you know, 15 or 20 years later or something. But
Yeah.
but still, it's interesting because I'm just like, no way, like she was cast in the movie, so like there's clearly a scene with her, like an adult version of Ruby. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because like that's definitely something to look forward to and be on the lookout for once we can kind of figure out what that's all about.
Well, Sam, you said you're gonna snatch this up on Blu-ray, so you better let us know if there is something like that in here. I actually saw that before too.
I bet you it's gonna be a deleted scene. It's gonna be, you're gonna see like the back of a nun knocking on someone's door. It's gonna be like, "Hello, you guys won this fucking sweepstakes thing or whatever from the church," and then the camera's gonna turn to the front of the nun, and it's gonna be an adult Ruby.
Yeah,
Watch.
that's very possible. I'm curious, and you know, like even watching the ending and then seeing that as well made me think if there could possibly be a sequel to this movie. I don't want to like speak it into existence or anything like that. Personally, I don't really think it needs it, but that is just a very, very interesting little thing to notice. And at least a deleted scene like that would be kind of cool to see. Yeah, very, very interesting. Well, definitely. Guys, I don't know. Anything else about Longlegs you want to discuss before we wrap it up?
I do have one thought, and I don't want to go on for too long, but we did not talk at all about the girl in the asylum or psychiatric hospital.
Kiernan Shipka.
Yeah. We didn't talk about her, but her connection to like Longlegs and kind of what's going on with the dolls and the metal balls inside of their heads and stuff is fairly interesting because she like clearly like has these issues, and that's why she's landed in the hospital. And her doll was found. They don't destroy the ball, but they pull the ball outside of the doll. And it's like and I think that's exactly what kind of triggers her to want to kill herself. I don't think it's necessarily like Longlegs came to visit her, or even Lee's mom Ruth came to visit her, whoever came to visit her and like told her to kill herself or whatever. I think it's because the ball was removed from the head of the doll. So and because she is the doll, and it like Longlegs was kind of using, I think, like their real hair to make these dolls too. So like when it's removed from her, I feel like she like had this part like removed from her, and she felt empty, and she felt like she needed to die or something like that. Whereas like with Lee's, hers was just completely destroyed, so it was like a complete release, and she didn't have that same type of reaction. So I feel like if like her like if the ball was removed from Lee's doll, maybe she would have like killed herself, just like Carrie Ann Camera, I think is her name, Camara, in the movie or whatever. Maybe she would have killed herself just like her. So I don't know. I thought I like on another rewatch, I really want to like examine that scene and her dialogue and kind of how those things unfold to fully extrapolate like what's going on there. But I mean, what do you guys think about that scene and kind of how those things unfold?
I thought as soon as you started talking about the ball being like removed like from the head of the doll, and then like Kiernan Shipka's character felt incomplete. Literally before you even started talking about it, that's why like I was already thinking like, I think that's why she like was driven to like the suicide. I did feel like she had like a piece of her that she was missing, because like the ball is still there, but you know, it's not one with the doll, so it would be like, oh, she doesn't feel like whole. Like the ball wasn't destroyed, so she was still under like the effects of it. So the fact that the ball wasn't whole with the body of the doll would make her feel like as if like a crucial part of her existence and, you know, reason for being is like missing under the influence of the devil. Like literally right before you started talking about the girl in the hospital, I started thinking in my head about all these things, and like you went the exact direction that I was thinking about in my brain, so you kind of like nailed it there for me, honestly.
I stole it from you.
Yeah, I think you're both definitely on the right track with that. So I mean, I think it's a pretty cool, and I don't know if I mentioned this exactly, but you know, you guys were talking about just how sometimes the supernatural stuff is played out, but I do appreciate that this movie at least attempted to do something a little bit different with the supernatural satanic stuff. I mean, I don't think we've ever quite seen this sort of approach to it with the dolls and the doll balls in the head, and how that works. I mean, we don't know exactly how it works, but we can kind of, you know, make these types of inferences based on what we've seen and heard. And you know, I like that they didn't like just reveal everything in like a book or something like that, or from some like character like they do in every Blumhouse movie about like how everything works. But I think you're probably on the right track. Yeah, just knowing that these objects have like some kind of essence of the devil, and the dolls that they are inside are supposed to represent these girls, and knowing how it has affected Lee and everything throughout her life, I think that's probably a pretty good guess. Yeah. Also, great job on the makeup and wardrobe for Kiernan Shipka's character, because I mean, I think a lot of people didn't even know that was her. It took me like a minute. I was like, hold on, is that Sabrina? But yeah, that was a pretty cool scene as well.
Yeah, I was like, she looks so different. I was like, oh, she's like a little bald head girl now. Great. Like,
so yeah, that was a cool scene. And just to your point, Caretaker, I definitely do want to rewatch this, not just for my like little list at the end of the year, but I think there is quite a lot to pick up on repeated viewings of this movie, which you can't say for every movie, but some of the best ones, you know, will be highly rewatchable. A lot of times I end up rewatching movies just for like the fun of it, you know, like even my favorite From Dusk Till Dawn at this point is just like highly entertaining, or you know, most recently I've been really enjoying rewatching like Malignant and Deadstream, because those are just like a blast to watch. But a movie like this, I think, definitely does benefit from repeated viewings, just to notice all the little details, because you can see the craft that's put into it. And I think there's a lot to notice in that regard, just from like a technical perspective, but then also from a storytelling perspective, to picking out all the little, devil appearances and even things like that, how characters are affected by things in this world kind of after you more or less know what's going on. So it's all the people saying that the story doesn't go anywhere, or that there's not really much going on. I definitely think that there is a lot going on, and that it definitely merits a little bit more thought, rewatches, and that's why I like doing analyses like this too, because we can kind of go into all this stuff. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's like you peel back layers on the first viewing. It's like you're peeling back layers, but they're thin layers until you kind of get towards the end, and then they kind of get a little bit thicker. But then on a second viewing, there's still more layers to peel back. And that's what's so cool about it, because with a lot of movies, like you said, you don't really necessarily get that. And with some of the very thought out ones, or very well thought out ones, highly technical ones, deep stories, and the way that they kind of like tell the story, specifically speaking with Longlegs, is it really introduces a lot more layers than meets the eye the first time around. And so I do think, like I said, I've seen it twice, and I think even on a third viewing I might notice more things that I didn't notice the first couple times around. So that's that's kind of a rarity, I feel like, in movies these days. Like, I feel like 90% of movies don't really have that to them. Like, yeah, they could be rewatchable and fun for that, or fun movies, so rewatchable for that type of reason, but not necessarily like you get more and more out of them every time you watch them. So
definitely, yeah. So, and some people might say that there's maybe like too much going on in that regard, but at least for this movie, I think once you kind of put all the pieces together, I think it all comes together pretty effectively and pretty coherently, which you definitely can't say for a lot of movies. And it's not even like there are like way too many contrasting themes or anything like that. I think the themes are pretty clear and pretty consistent in this movie. It's just that, there's a lot to pick apart, and that's okay, because it's not like, some like brain dead plot, which I can appreciate. So, yeah. All right. Any other thoughts, Sam? Anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I think we all pretty much dissected and analyzed every part of the movie that I wanted to talk about, especially Caretaker. He's just, I could tell we're both big fanboys of this, and he already really explained everything that was like supposed to be explained and talked about. Like, he hit the nail on the head. That's why I like when he's here, because like, I don't have to yammer on as much, because usually I'm the one like yapping a lot about stuff. So thank you.
I took that roll over a little bit, eh?
That's okay.
Well, I
you're
did
making your presence felt here.
But also, like, I did see the movie twice.
I mean, so said like you said everything that I was thinking.
That's fair. But I did see the movie twice, so I feel like I know if you guys saw the movie twice, you guys would have probably just been all over it too. Because like, it's just like I said, I just understood a lot more the second time around. After my first viewing, I probably would have been a little more like really still in my stage of like thinking about it, like trying to figure out and piece together certain things. But second viewing, things just click a lot easier. So I came already knowing a lot of what I kind of wanted to discuss and see what you guys felt about it. But yeah, sorry to steal your thunder a little bit, Sam.
No, I love it. I love it. We need, like, I love when we have a guest that actually knows what they're talking about and actually like puts in their input, like, and you're not even a guest anymore. Like, you are an official member now. Like, no more guest starring caretaker. You are like one of the trio. We are the unholy trinity now.
Yeah.
Ooga chaka, ooga
Yeah,
chaka.
it's so fucking cool.
I mean, it's good to have that perspective too, because I mean, I know for me at least, I mean, it's been at least a few weeks now since I watched it. So, I mean, even during this conversation, I was trying to have to like reach back and recollect things. So, yeah, there's lots of this movie. I'm excited to watch it again. And if you're listening to this and you haven't yet seen it, and you just listen to everything we talked about, well, I guess you probably know what happens in this movie, but I hope you still get to go and see it. If you've already seen the movie, I'm sure there's stuff we have not mentioned. Like I said, there's a lot in this movie. There are definitely scenes or little things. I mean, we didn't even like expand that heavily on like the sound design or even like certain other characters or whatever. But I think we hit on all the really important parts, but definitely, if there are things that we left out, it's normal. But if you've seen the movie, drop a comment wherever you're listening to this. We're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok as well. We do have a YouTube channel, which I need to upload more videos to, I know. But we're everywhere. Listen to this podcast wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And yeah, interact with us, engage, let us know your thoughts on Longlegs. And we also do have a website. So, Sam, I know you know our website by heart. So why don't you tell them where they can find the website?
You can always find us at gravediscussions.net. We also have a section where you can meet the hosts, learn about Freudian slip, learn about our favorite horror movies and things we like.
Yeah, we're going to have to update that whole page to now include the caretaker as well.
Yes.
And just do some... I have to update the site in some other ways too with like some of the episodes and posts and stuff. But be on the lookout for all of that. Bookmark gravediscussions.net. We've always got the newest episode, the newest articles and everything on there, as well as where you can reach us and find us. So please do that. But I think for now... that's Longlegs, guys, and I'm really happy we got to talk about this movie. We've got so many great films still to come in 2024, and I think now with this host lineup, with this rotation, I'm hoping we're going to get to do these episodes a little bit more consistently. So hopefully whatever the next horror movie is that comes out, we'll be on top of it, or we'll bring it back and cover some old movies, cover some topics, whatever. If you guys want to hear us talk or do an episode about anything in particular, please let us know. You can reach us at gravediscussions@gmail.com as well, or just hit up our social media. But I think that's going to do it for episode 110, Fiends. Until next time, I am Barnabas.
I am Samael.
And I am the caretaker.
And we'll see you once again on
Grave Discussion.